Hello, everybody, and welcome back to A Storyteller's Role. I'm your host, David Lanier, and this is our sixth installment of turning Star Wars Episode 4 New Hope into a template for Dungeons and Dragons, 2014 edition or beyond or before. Um, Going forward, I don't know the new rule set at the moment, don't have the books. So I don't know what they've changed. I don't think they've changed much, and I can't imagine that they would have. So it should be good for the games going forward. That is, if they keep the Tarask. If they don't, and they don't let you make up your own monsters, and they change it to be something that it wasn't back in the day I played it, I can't help you. Find another one. In the meantime, this template should work for any tabletop role-playing game. We're just using it for Dungeons and Dragons. I have to have that disclaimer in there. It's amazing. Can you imagine? It's been around for 50 years already. I've been playing it since 1977, and I love the game. I just can't get the new books yet. So don't get me wrong, I'm not putting it down. I just want to have a disclaimer in there in case the rules have changed dramatically and I don't know anything about them. That's all I'm doing. Now let's see. I had a marker around here. What color should we use today? Well, I was using black before because it shows up more on the. But you know what? We could use the blue. I don't know if the blue will show up with green, but we could try. So we have 21 beats that we have to fill in. The 21 beats are going to cover the entire measure. This is something I want to explain. So I'm going to draw a picture. Give me a moment. Remember we have our 7-point plot structure. One, two. Oops, I got that a little bit backwards. This is the way your outline should look if you're going to set it up correctly. Hook, plot point one, pinch one, midpoint, pinch two, plot point two, resolution. Today we're going to talk about the hook and the resolution. We'll talk about the other structures as well, but not as much. The reason we're going to talk about the hook and the resolution is because that's where we're starting our template. We know we want them to defeat the Tarask, and we want the Tarask to be the hook, and we know that we have a hook for our players. What we're going to do is we're going to have the cleric and the rogue, or the cleric and the bard, but you have to have somebody who has a sort of a ne'er-do-well, criminally insane, nose-picker type background, with somebody who's a man of God who doesn't have such a background. So a paladin works too. You need to have somebody that offsets the dichotomy so that when you give them the missive, you can trust that they will actually follow through with the command to get the job done. The reason for this is because you notice that in the movie Star Wars, when they land on Tatooine, C-3PO and R2-D2, because of the dynamic of their relationship, bicker with each other and go off in desperate ways, right? This is rule number one. Never split the fucking party. Sorry about that F-bomb right there, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to emphasize never split the party. When you split the party, bad things can happen. That's where we had to have the random encounter of the Jawas. And the random encounter of the Jawas was to bring back C-3PO and R2-D2. And then we had to tie in that random encounter to them meeting the main hero 10 minutes into the story. Told you I'd look it up. So our screenplay is 121 pages roughly because it was a 121-minute runtime. So we're going to do a little bit of math because we have 120 minutes. That's 2 hours. We're going to extend it to three, right? Giving us a whole 180 minutes. But we're going to use the Star Wars template first because that's what works. If we're extending it to three, that's because there's combat and people are looking things up and whatever. And people are running late and whatever. And that's our window period. But we'll get into the window period in episode 8. Meantime, this is the real deal. The entire adventure takes 2 hours if run, and your players don't go mucking about. Okay? The actual runtime for it should be 2 hours because it's written for 2 hours of screen time. But we're not writing a screenplay. So this is how we do that. Our hook, we know, is going to be the cleric and the rogue. So we write down hook, cleric, rogue. Then over here under resolution, Karask is defeated. Hook, cleric, and rogue must save TBDFL. That's to be determined for later. That's the town name I gave it in the last video because I said you had to drop a comment down below because you're naming it. I'm not naming it. If I have to name it, I'm going to name it something ridiculous and probably very, very graphic. So, sorry, Doc, I'm not very. So we have the hook. Must save TBD determined for later. Cleric given missive of help. So that's our beat, right? Now, if we're going to follow the Star Wars format, we can easily do that by going ba 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 da 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 da. Oh, ba ba da 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 da. Ba, da, 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 da. Right? Star Wars theme. Yep. And start playing that in our heads a little bit. And as we get it going in our heads, we start to look at the hook and we say, I need impetus because otherwise they're going to stand around with their, robes and their little things, and the rogue is going to try and steal stuff or whatever. So what you do is you impress upon the rogue, hey, so you guys start in the mayor's office because the mayor needs to speak to both of you because the mayor has a request for both of you. And both of you have either aided and helped the people of this town or provided you, Mr. Rogue, cover when you needed it and Johnny Law was on your six. So you owe them. And they even put in a little bit of a taste for you saying, we'll open up the coffers, right? And pay off some of your bounty for you if you help us out. So the rogue is all in if necessary. You can throw in the tidbit later, but I would throw in that tidbit of money somewhere later. Town has deep pockets. They were a small town farm, maybe, but they had a mineral deposit somewhere, right? And that made them rich. Who knows? But they're rich. So they can keep their end of the bargain, is what the point is. We need to push our heroes into the fray. So we're going to start off with the scene where the Tarask has just destroyed and ransacked the village. And Johnny Law, the same Johnny Law that's on the that is has a bounty out for a rogue, is now in town looking, right, for the mayor and his daughter. And they got his daughter. They've kidnapped his daughter. They take off. Let me think on this. Let me think this through because we want to match the same pacing. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask for 3 die rolls from the rogue and the cleric as they sneak their way out of town. They've been given the missive, but we start with action. And there's a Tarask in town and Johnny Law's in town, so you better hightail it out of town, and your horses are right there conveniently. If they try to escape with the mayor gets shot in the back with an arrow and dies. And they're going to have to deliver that message to the princess because she's been captured and doesn't know that her father has been killed. If they escape without the mayor and the mayor goes, no, no, I can't come with you. I got to go look for my daughter. I got to go rescue my daughter. And they got to try to rescue the daughter. Bring up the heat a little bit, bring some soldiers in or whatever, but make sure that they escape, right? Give your party advantage and the pursuing team disadvantage if necessary to keep the die rolls and the tension going. We want characters to create, or players rather, to create characters, hopefully, right? With the rule of cool, characters that fit the narrative. But we know that sometimes they don't always do that. Thankfully, Star Wars has a broad milieu, menagerie, really, of critters you could be. So it fits. Now, let's see. Hero, cleric, rogue must, and the resolution Tarask must be defeated. How is the Tarask defeated? We've already determined that there are these berries, and, or maybe it's a potion, or maybe it's some sort of brew, right? But there is some sort of thing that is unique to the town of to be determined for later. Um, will be especially good at. They have ownership of it. They can control the Tarask, right? They didn't know that they could control the Tarask, but they could. And we want it to be a happy holiday sort of love theme somewhere, love interest in there. So let's say that the berries that this village grows and it only grows on their soil or it only grows with their special treatment of it or whatever, gives off a certain terpene profile, which sends off a odor that attracts the Tarask and makes it think that it's mating season. And if it eats these berries, it will go into a euphoric frenzy of bliss, thinking that it has just reproduced. Here's the thing. There's only one Tarask. There's no baby Tarasks. There's only one Tarask. So it's a sad tale because After the Tarask eats these berries, here's the other secret, right? It gets really pissed off and starts rutting again because it realizes it cannot reproduce and it has no mate. And in a fit of rage and loneliness, it goes on a rampage and destroys again. And the mayor of Hobbiton, no, Gravy Train, no, Everlast, no. See, again, need your help. I'm gonna come up with something nasty. Um, so the mayor of To Be Determined for Later, or is it To Be Determined for Now? No, it's To Be Determined for Now. So the mayor of To Be Determined for Now, because that was the determined for later was the yeah. Anyway, so the To Be Determined for Now uh is our village of peaceful farmers and whatever, and To Be Determined for Later is the evil empire that hopefully somebody will leave a comment down below for that too. But I'm really good at coming up with names out of a phone book or something if necessary. So, you know, it'll be graphic, I promise you. It'll be awful. It'll be punishment. Oh, it'll be punny. Um, let's see. So in our resolution, in order to defeat the Tarask, we want to give the party three different possibilities. But we don't know what those three possibilities are. All we know is town. Nope, sorry, village. 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 Yeah, I like this. All right. See, by just coming up with the resolution and the hook and using a movie template, we already got a good story. I got it. Okay, cool. Look at this. We're gonna love this. So the berries, right, do as we said. It gives off the pheromones and the terpenes and all that, and then the thing goes and it goes running about. But they don't tell the Empire this, and the Empire thinks they got the control because they think they got an evil wizard who knows how to control Tarask. It found a weakness and can control the Tarask, but it's only controlling Tarask by continuing to keep it enraged. And they're using the threat of the Tarask and unleashing it on villages to destroy uh, towns and townships and take all of their goods and their minerals and their, you know, anything they want. Bullies, basically. And you guys are going to stop that. So we got our hook for the cleric and the rogue. They're going to recruit the rest of the party. That's going to help. We're going to create a little prop. I'll tell you how to do that again at the end. We take the Tarask, right? And it's a love story. He has no mate. It's sad, really. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn the tables at the midpoint, right? And we're going to sneak into the rebel base, not the rebel base. We're going to sneak into the emperor base, right? Because we got caught. We allowed ourselves to get caught. Or maybe they did get caught. We don't know. That's up to the players. But the way they get into the base, right? They got to get into the base and they got to get into the base and they got to leave these berries there for the Tarask to eat so that the Tarask starts going all blissful and doesn't want to fight or do anything. And so when they enrage it, the Tarask will think they're trying to attack it. And trust me, this will be fun. This will be fun. We're going to make the Tarask berserk. That's our way of blowing up the Death Star. Okay, so we have our hook and we have our resolution. We have our little plot point one, which is, hey, cleric, hey, rogue, you're not uh, powerful enough or whatever. We need you to help us recruit the rest of the party. And that gives us a good 10 minutes of playtime, fun time, right, to play with the rogue and the cleric and have them run out of town and almost get caught, not get caught, but we're going to have three die rolls, right? And the mediocre one is going to be the one we use to have reason for that random encounter should the party dawdle too much and not move into pinch one. If we need to, we'll use the bounty and the law for pinch one. That's exactly what it's for, right? At the appropriate time. But hopefully, we won't need to do it. Hopefully, the players will just automatically draw themselves into the pinch, knowing, hey, Johnny Law's on our back. And we go, yes, they are. And just at that beat, right when they say that and do that, if you have it meet with suddenly bursts in Johnny Law, but you guys escape, they're going to be on the edge of their seats. That's why we have the action, right? So every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, you got to have some change. You got to have some action. That's the other part. They teach it in film school. They expect you to know it. Every 10 to 15 minutes, action, action, action. Every 10 to 15, action. You got to do that. Love scene, love interest, every 10 to 15 minutes, right? Since we started with action, since we always start with action, and since it's a big action kind of movie, right? Not the blockbuster movie like, a superhero franchise, but we have to have that action. And if you notice, even in the superhero franchises, they have that lull in the middle. That's the midpoint. But we're not going to have a lull in our midpoint. Our midpoint's going to be solid because at the midpoint for Star Wars, what happened? They got stuck on the Death Star and had to escape. Did we see a boring moment? No, we had fun. And that's the fun of our story. That midpoints, that's the fun where our players create their stuff. That's where they level up to level two, right? They start at level one, they level up to level two at the midpoint. They get new abilities. They feel really, really, really empowered, right? They're taking the fight from being bullied to the bully. Now they're the ones bringing the fight to the big bad evil guy. And the big bad evil guy didn't look so big and bad and evil once you level up a little bit, because now you got some stuff you can do, boy. He's still big bad and evil, and you still got a big, use your wits. But you are now starting to put on them steel-toed boots and ready to take the fight to be determined for later. Drop a comment down below. We'll have a name for it. In case you forgot, in case you forgot, that's a Tarask. There's only one. It's a legendary being. You can't kill it. You can tame it, you can control it a little bit, you can piss it off, but you can't really kill it. It's a legendary being. And it's tearing through your town like an American band. So far, we've adhered to the Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game as a storytelling in worlds of swords and sorcery. It shares elements of childhood games of make-believe. And like those games, D&D is driven by the imagination. Yes, we've held true to that. We're holding true to the improv tools that my ancestor taught so many immigrants in the city of Chicago. Her name is Viola, Viola, Spolin, Spolin. I would most definitely suggest you go look her up. She and her son, Paul Sills, started Second City. So that's fun, right? Let's get back to our adventure. We're going to take the Death Star and we're going to blow it up. That's our goal. How do we get our characters there? How do we get our players there? I don't know. That's going to be in episode 7 and 8. But right now, we have a good story. So the first seven beats of our story are going to be this. Mayor calls the cleric and the rogue into his office, explains the situation and the circumstance of what he needs the party to do. That is, hey, the Empire has control over this terrible Tarask, and we need your help, blah, 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 blah. While he's doing that, beat two, bam! Tarask enters the scene, starts destroying the town. Not the, whatever, the town itself. You guys are way out of your league on this one. You're first level, so you're definitely going to run. So, bam, plot point uh, or beat three, gotta save the mayor, right? Take the mayor. Mayor is trying to help you escape. Mayor says, "Hey, hey, hey, I gotta go find my daughter. You guys get on the horses and get out of here. You have a bounty on your head, Mr. Rogue, and you don't want it. So this is a pinch for you if necessary." Right? Taras can come closer if necessary, but you really want them to feel the action and the heat and make it to the horses after three die rolls. We have enemy troops and everything coming in, and you hear screaming and chaos, and you can hear all that nasty stuff. Remember, two senses, right? You can smell the burning, decaying, blood-stained, whatever. You can hear, you can smell. The terrible stench is in the air, blah, blah, blah. Push them forward. Two, six, get on the horses. Seven, get out of town. That's our seven plot point beat for the first section of our movie, right? Get out of town. 10 minutes. By page 10, they're out of town and on Tatooine and in the hands of the Jawas in Star Wars, right? That's what happened. In this, they're leaving town and on their way to get more help. They got to go to the next town over, which is conveniently at least 10 more minutes away. Because we're going to give our new player that we're going to introduce with some action, right? We're going to give them a chance to set or establish the scene for their character. We're going to give them the downbeat now. That's what we need because we had all this action, right? So we got to bring it down a notch. Otherwise, we don't have any roller coaster of emotions or anything. We don't have any way for people to get a chance to catch their breath. So we went, oh crap, we're in trouble. Oh crap, we're in trouble. Oh, we got away. To that first jaunt up the hill of our roller coaster that we want to be on, right? And we're starting just barely to get over this tip. That tip is going to be when we introduce Luke Skywalker. Whoever plays Luke Skywalker, that's the character that gets introduced now. That's the player that we introduce now. It could be the entire party, the rest of the party if you wish, right? But the main storyline deals with one introduction for roughly, let me think about this. We established that Luke's on Tatooine. We established that he's a farm boy. We established that he wanted to get off the planet. We established his life before, and then we put in the juxtaposition of the droids that you bought. One of them has a mission. So almost 30 minutes into the movie is when he gets off and meets Obi-Wan. That's almost about 30, 40 minutes into the movie is where he meets Obi-Wan. He doesn't meet Obi-Wan until about 30 minutes in, roughly. I got to go look that up again. I have the script. That's how I do it. Um, So that means that we're not going to introduce, and like I said, every 15 minutes, right? So he must have been introduced in 15 minutes, so we had 10. So you get 20 minutes is when we meet the droids and put them together. At 30 minutes is when we meet Obi-Wan, right? Because we had to establish Luke's life. So there has to be another 10 feet in there because we don't meet Han Solo until the midpoint, really, until we just rush into the cantina scene. So Obi-Wan goes back. That was the beat, right? Because they go back home to see that he can't turn around. I want to say roughly 40 minutes in is when we meet Obi-Wan. Somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes is when we meet Obi-Wan. So imagine that we had 10 minutes here. We have an establishing, sort of whatever the life of the guy before. We have 7 beats in, right? We know that the movie is roughly 121 minutes. So that's going to give us 14 beats, and we have 7 acts, right? So this is our two, so we only have 14 beats. So something's going on here. So we got to speed things up. So how do we do that? Aha, I know. This is how they did that. Luke Skywalker. Conversation tells you everything you need to know about him. You don't have much of an established shot. You have the film to show you he's lonely on this planet. It's a desolate planet of desert sand and nothing to do there. And teenage boy wants to get off the farm. Oh boy, oh boy. So you really didn't need the conversation, but you do have a conversation with Uncle Owen to show him where he is and where he is and whatever, and establish that our hero is basically a pud. He already knows that as a player because he's first level, so you really don't need much. But you could have one. You could eliminate one of those scenes because you're going to bring in the whole party. So let's bring in the whole party and let's give the entire party a chance to establish themselves at some bar or something. Do you guys know each other? Do you guys not know each other? How do you meet? That kind of thing. That will be our mid situation here before Cleric and Rogue burst in. So Cleric and Rogue are going to burst in at plot point 1. And it's going to be up to the entire party to decide that they need to go on this adventure together. And I'm talking at this point Obi-Wan, Luke Skywalker, R2D2, and C3PO. These are the first three, right? They're going to agree that they need help, and the dude is going to say, I know a guy. If you bring in Obi-Wan and Ben, so you want to have at least 2 players at the bar if you're going to do this. So you have Luke and Ben, right? Luke and Obi-Wan Kenobi, old Ben Kenobi. That was his name, right? Ben Kenobi. It doesn't matter. Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker, right, are the people you're going to meet, right? You have to decide whether or not you want Luke Skywalker or not Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan to be an NPC. I suggest that you don't because, or rather, I suggest that you do because he dies. The mentor dies. So I suggest you make the mentor an NPC, but you don't have to. You can make him a player character if you want. You do have 7 choices of characters that you can play with. You can add more roles, right? So we want to make this spread out so that each player has their own chance to have skin in the game. And we already gave skin in the game to the cleric and the rogue. We need plot point 1 to be the skin in the game for Luke Skywalker. So we'll put who plays Luke Skywalker here, and we'll figure that out as we go. And then we'll have pinch 1 be Bolo. There's a Bolo out. You know this because the guards come rushing in. and the rogue and the cleric need to get out of town. So already we're getting closer to having our story spread out, and that's good. Now we have our first seven plot points that we created with the cleric and the rogue. They must get the missive and they're being chased. And there's Darask, and we've introduced the Darask. Oh my God. So we have that. Hmm. We're going to have a meanwhile. A meanwhile is a gratification beat for the narrative, right? But not a gratification beat. The meanwhile is something where we explain, hey, here's what happened while you guys were doing this. So I say, meanwhile, while you guys are doing that, and while you guys have run out of this, the mayor and his daughter have been captured to the best of your knowledge. Unless you saw the mayor die. But the daughter you know was kidnapped because you heard her screams as she was taken hostage and said, "Help, help, help, I'm being kidnapped." What do we do? That's going to be our meanwhile, which drives them and everybody here to our bolo. And while they're figuring out what to do, and we have that lull point, because remember, our roller coaster is gone, went, our Schacter Singer, our roller coaster went from here to here to here, right? And that's what we're doing. We're getting the audience to attribute the story to their willfully suspended disbelief, but we don't have their willfully suspended disbelief unless we keep it there. We have 5 minutes to get it. We have 2 hours to keep it. This is important. I want to explain that. So I'm going to erase everything I wrote here. Let me make sure I remember it. Yep. It's a good thing. No. So this is very important. This is for them, not you. You're telling a story. That's your role. Their role is role play. So when you ramp up the heat, know that you're going to have a downbeat. When you have a downbeat, know you're going to have to ramp up the heat. Know that you have only 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes per beat point to get to the next one. Know that you have to do it very when the heat is on and very when you're having that low dramatic beat moment and it goes when the heat's on and it goes when the heat's off, goes heat on, heat on, res- heat on, heat on, heat on, resolution. You're going to need to know your rhythm in order to keep everybody's willfully suspended disbelief, which you have 5 minutes to get. They will be more inclined to give it to you because it's an audience that wants to play TTRPGs. So you might have 10 minutes of grace period, but you want to practice and hone your craft. Once you have them at the 5 minutes and they're willfully suspending their disbelief, the way to keep them there is to keep them in the moment. By keeping them in the moment and switching things up between cleric and rogue, new dude, NPC, couple of other people, barbarian and other guy, other rogue guy coming into play, ranger maybe, who knows, right? Ooh, let's go save that princess. Boom. Let's go. We got the princess. We're all in trouble now. We got to get it out of here. We got to get out of trouble. We got to get out of trouble. We got to get out of trouble. We're out of trouble. We're out of trouble. We're out of trouble. Do you think that they actually let us escape? Deep, pondering thoughts. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? They're after us. They're after us. They're after us. Fear, fear, fear. Oh, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. Okay, okay, okay. Oh, crap. I can't do that without my navigation system. What am I going to do? Final level up, use the Force Luke, and boom. We want to keep that pace. If we keep that pace, your audience will attribute appropriately their excitement to the story you are telling together, and they will attribute the excitement that you all have had together as being a fun time and will want to come back for more games. Your players matter. Players do count. All games bring players to questing roleplay. 9 story beats, 9, right? Dramatic art is comedy and tragedy, hope and fear. Hope, fear. That's our roller coaster of emotion that we have. And we have 9 beats with which to play with so that we have an emotional arc that is bigger than just hope and fear. I hope this information is of help and value to you. Please, by all means, like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell and all of that great stuff. Leave a comment down below and let me know. What is the empire name? I have a few ideas. What is the name of the town where, the people are running from that, has these berries? I need you to put some skin in the game. Thank all of you. May all your die rolls stay blessed. See you in the funny papers.